Hello, my love. Welcome back to Letters to My Love, ASMR. I'm back in the city tonight. Back in my flat, above the streets, above the noise. The countryside still clings to me in small ways, in the quiet behind my thoughts, in the memory of darker skies. But here, it's different. Here, the world doesn't truly go to sleep. Even now, the city keeps a low, steady hum, like a distant engine that never quite switches off. And outside my windows, the rain is heavy, not delicate, not polite. It falls with intention. You'd hear it if you were here. The way it strikes the glass in soft bursts, then steadies, then swells again, like the night is breathing in its own way. I've closed the door. The outside is on the other side of brick and glass now. And in here, it's warm, quiet enough, safe enough. There's a particular stillness that arrives after you return home. A pause in the air, as if the room is simply noticing you again. And it notices what I notice, that you aren't here. Not in a painful way, not sharply, just in that gentle, unmistakable way a room feels larger than it should. I don't need you to make this place function. I'm quite capable. But you make it alive. You bring something with you that can't be bought, or arranged, or lit with a switch. A softness, a sense of belonging, a warmth that isn't only warmth. So yes, I've returned. And yes, the rain is relentless tonight. But the truest thing in this room, the thing I feel most clearly, is how fondly I'm thinking of you. I can still picture the cottage, the way the countryside holds sound differently, how silence out there isn't empty, it's full of space to think, full of room to miss you. And I did. I missed you out there too. But the missing was quieter, as if the open fields diluted it. In the city, it concentrates. It sits closer. It feels more precise. Perhaps that's because everything here is sharper. The angles, the lights, the pace. Or perhaps it's simply this. When I'm here, I imagine you here. I imagine you stepping into this space as if it has always been yours. As if the distance between us is a small thing, easily crossed. And I'll be honest with you, softly as we do. I rather like that imagination. It doesn't make me restless. It doesn't make me needy. It simply makes the room feel closer to what I want. Outside, the rain continues its patient insistence. It paints the city in reflections, street lamps stretching long across wet pavement, windows glowing like quiet little promises. And up here, in my rooms, it's calm. Not silent, just calm. I'm aware of the time, but I'm not ruled by it. The night can take its time with us. There's no hurry here. If you're listening, you can let the world stay outside. Let it keep raining. Let it keep doing what it does. You don't have to manage any of it tonight. Here, we're simply arriving. Back to the city, back to warmth, back to this steady sense of you in my thoughts. Act 1, Segment 3, less than or equal to 5,000 characters. I find the city charming in its way. It has manners, if you know where to look, a kind of late-night elegance, muted, softened by weather. But the countryside had something the city cannot imitate. It had that honest quiet, the kind that makes you feel you've stepped out of time. I think that's why I'm feeling you so strongly tonight, because I've just come from a place where I could hear my heart more clearly, and it was saying your name in its own private language. Not loudly, not dramatically, just faithfully. And now, being back here, I notice the contrast. The city is full of people, full of lights, full of movement, and yet the only absence that matters to me is singular. It has your shape. I don't say that to burden you. I say it because it's tender, because it's true. There's a dignity in missing someone you love, not as a complaint, not as a wound you display, but as a quiet proof that the heart has chosen and continues choosing. That's what this is tonight. My heart continuing to choose you. And as the rain leans into the windows again, soft, steady, endless, I let myself be content with the simplicity of it. I am here. You are in my thoughts. The night is doing what nights do, wrapping the world in darkness and sound, asking everyone to slow down. And we will, gently, in our own time. So consider this your quiet invitation, not to do anything, not to perform, not to solve, only to arrive. Arrive here with me, in this warm room, with the rain safely outside, with the city held at a distance. In episode 1, I was at the cottage, surrounded by countryside hush. Tonight, I've come back to my flat, to the familiar lines of the city. Different walls, different sounds, same devotion. And I won't rush you. I won't pull you forward. I won't crowd your mind with story. I only want to give you a clear picture, and then let that picture soften around the edges. So here it is, simple, steady. Heavy rain at the windows, a quiet room above the street, a man thinking of you with great fondness. That's all you need to hold. Nothing complicated, nothing sharp, just warmth, just rain, just this gentle truth. I miss you, in a calm way, in a way that feels like comfort rather than lack, as if you're already part of the room, even from a distance. And now we'll let the night deepen, slowly, softly. The rain hasn't eased. If anything, it's steadier now. A constant hush against the windows. I've drawn the curtains most of the way, not to shut the world out entirely, just to soften it. The city can keep its glow. It can shimmer behind the fabric, blurred and distant. We don't need its brightness tonight. There's a certain pleasure in small rituals, unhurried ones, the sort that belong only to evenings like this. I move slowly about the room, not pacing, not restless, simply preparing it, as one prepares a thought before speaking it aloud. The fire has settled properly now, no longer tentative. It burns with quiet confidence, a steady glow beneath the soft movement of flame. I add another log with care. There's no rush in the gesture, just the small satisfaction of tending something warm. The wood answers with a gentle crackle, a low, comforting sound. Not sharp, not startling. It's curious, isn't it, how warmth changes the atmosphere of a room. The same walls, the same furniture, yet everything feels softer in firelight. If you were here, I imagine you'd notice it immediately. You have a way of sensing subtle shifts. You'd tilt your head slightly, as though listening to the room itself. And I would watch you, not obviously, but enough to know you're comfortable. I think that's what I like most about evenings like this, the sense that comfort can be created deliberately. Not extravagant, not dramatic, just intentional. The rain outside continues its steady applause, and in here, we let things grow warm. I've set a small lamp aglow near the sofa. Nothing harsh, nothing overhead, just a pool of amber light that gathers quietly in the corner. Firelight and lamplight together, they flatter the night. I pass through the kitchen briefly, only long enough to put the kettle on. The sound of water filling it is soft, contained. There's something reassuring about that simple preparation, the promise of warmth before it arrives. While we wait, the rain keeps its rhythm, steady, reliable. And I think of you again, not with urgency, never that, but with that fond, steady affection that settles deeper the longer it's held. You see, I don't miss you in a way that unsettles me. I miss you the way one misses a favourite chair by the fire, not because the room cannot function without it, but because it completes the arrangement. The kettle begins its low murmur, a gentle building of sound, then steam, then the soft click as it reaches its warmth. I pour slowly, tea leaves releasing their quiet fragrance into the air. It mingles with the faint scent of wood smoke, earthy and familiar. I carry the cup back with me, careful and unhurried. Even the heat in my hands feels like part of the ritual. If you were here, I'd have prepared one for you as well. Perhaps something lighter, something you prefer. And I'd hand it to you without ceremony. Because some gestures don't require announcement. They simply belong. The fire shifts again, a soft settling sound as the log finds its place. And the room feels entirely ours now. I sit at last. Not heavily, not with exhaustion, just with the satisfaction of having arranged the evening properly. The tea warms my hands. The fire warms the room, and the rain keeps its patient vigil outside. These are the sort of nights I think you'd treasure, not because they are rare, but because they are simple. Simplicity has a certain luxury to it, the luxury of not performing, the luxury of being unobserved. If you were here, we wouldn't need grand conversation. We might speak softly about small things, or perhaps not at all. There is something profoundly intimate about shared quiet. Two people at ease enough not to fill every space with sound. I imagine you seated nearby, close enough to feel the warmth of the fire, close enough that the distance between us is measured in inches rather than miles. And the thought doesn't stir me into restlessness. It soothes me. Because longing, when it is secure, feels less like reaching and more like remembering. Remembering what already belongs to you. The rain softens slightly now. Not stopping, just easing its insistence. The city beyond the curtains continues its muted life. But here, we've created something gentler. A room warmed with intention. An evening slowed on purpose. A heart thinking of you without strain. And as I sit here, cup in hand, fire steady, rain constant, I feel perfectly content to let the night unfold at its own pace. There's no urgency in warmth. It spreads slowly. It lingers. And tonight, that is all we require. In a little while, I'll begin the letter properly. But for now, we simply sit and let the warmth do its quiet work. I've opened the notebook properly now. The fire has settled into that deep amber glow, the kind that feels older than the room itself. The rain continues, steady as ever. Let me begin again, properly. My love, as I sit here, the rain tracing patient lines down the glass, I find myself returning not only to you, but to us. Not to grand occasions, not to dramatic declarations, but to the smaller moments that seem, in retrospect, to have shaped everything. I think of a quiet walk we once took, the sort of afternoon where the sky was undecided between blue and grey. There was nothing remarkable about the setting. No orchestra of violins, no sweeping view demanding applause. And yet, I remember the ease between us, the way conversation rose and fell without effort, the way silence never felt like a gap to be filled. That, to me, is intimacy, not spectacle, not intensity. Ease. I think of how you looked when you were listening rather than speaking, how your expressions softened slightly, as though you were storing the moment somewhere safe. You have a way of making ordinary hours feel considered, as though they matter, and that is a rare gift. The countryside reminded me of that. Wide fields, unhurried skies. It made me realize how much I treasure the way you move through space, never rushed, never clamoring for attention. You simply arrive, and the room adjusts accordingly. There was an evening not long ago, the air cool, the light fading early, when we sat without speaking for quite some time. I remember thinking, rather quietly to myself, that I could live 1,000 such evenings and never grow weary of them. Not because they were extraordinary, but because they were ours. The fire beside me tonight reminds me of that hour. Its warmth is steady, not flamboyant. It does not compete for attention. It simply glows. You are very much like that. You do not blaze recklessly. You endure. And I admire that more than you perhaps realize. I admire the way you remain composed when others lose theirs. The way your kindness is deliberate, not performative. the way you listen fully without calculating what you'll say next. These things are not loud, but they are profound. When I think of the future, and I do, more often than I let on, I do not imagine dramatic gestures. I imagine continuity. Winter evenings in rooms warmed properly, rain on distant rooftops, books left half-finished because conversation took precedence. I imagine you beside me in those moments, not as a fantasy, but as something entirely plausible. That quiet certainty is one of the loveliest feelings I know. My love. The rain has softened again. The fire lowers, but the warmth remains constant. I wonder how you are feeling in this moment. Whether the day has left you thoughtful, or tired, or peaceful. Whatever state you find yourself in, you are entirely welcome there. You need not refine yourself for me. You need not be brighter, sharper, stronger. I have seen you at your most radiant, and I have seen you in quieter hours, and in both I have felt the same steady admiration. If you are drifting now, if your thoughts are becoming softer at the edges, let them. Let this letter become part of the background of your evening. Know that my affection does not depend on your alertness. It does not fade when you sleep. It rests where it has always rested. There is something deeply reassuring about loving someone without urgency, without fear of loss. And that is how I feel about you tonight. Not grasping, not uncertain, simply steady. As this letter draws gently onward, I feel no need to rush its ending. Much like our evenings, it can taper slowly. I think of the places we have stood, near water, where wind lifted your hair slightly, on quiet streets where the lamps glowed amber, in rooms filled with laughter that softened when we exchanged a glance. Those moments were not defined by spectacle. They were defined by presence. Yours. And so, when I sit here tonight, alone in this warm room above rain-swept streets, I do not feel deprived. I feel aware. Aware of how fortunate I am to love with calm assurance. If sleep is near you now, if your breathing has slowed, if your thoughts are slipping gently into that pleasant blur before dreams, then carry this with you. You are cherished in ways that do not waver. You are admired in ways that do not fade with distance. You are loved in a manner that is patient, deliberate, enduring. The rain will continue long after this letter ends. The embers will glow quietly into the night. And somewhere in this city, a man sits with a small, private smile, grateful for the simple, steady truth of you. Rest now, my love. The notebook rests closed beside me now. The letter has been read, slowly, properly, and the fire continues its quiet glow, as though it approves of restraint. There is a particular stillness that follows words spoken with care. Not silence exactly, but something gentler. The rain remains, though softer now. It has traded insistence for rhythm, a steady brushing against the city. I find reflection comes most naturally at this hour, when the day has withdrawn its expectations, when nothing further is demanded. Love, I think, is most honest in these moments, stripped of performance, freed from spectacle. I have often considered what makes affection endure. It is not intensity. Intensity flares brightly and fades. Enduring love is quieter. It resembles the rain tonight, persistent, measured, untroubled by the passing hour. When I speak of you, even in my own thoughts, there is no agitation, only clarity. You feel like something settled in me, not newly discovered, not fragile, settled. And that steadiness is deeply restful. I sometimes wonder whether you realize how calming your presence is, not in a dramatic sense, but in the subtle way tension leaves a room when you enter it. You do not command attention loudly. You alter the atmosphere quietly. There is strength in that. I admire it. In a world that rewards noise, you remain composed. In a world that chases urgency, you choose patience. Perhaps that is why loving you feels less like pursuit and more like alignment. The fire lowers another degree. Its glow deepens into a richer amber. Embers, I've always thought, are more interesting than flames. They hold their warmth without display. Reflection is rather like that as well. It does not rush. It does not flare. It settles slowly into understanding. I understand now, more clearly than before, but what I value most in us is not excitement. It is peace. Peace when seated beside one another. Peace in shared silence. Peace in knowing that distance does not erode what has been built. That peace is not accidental. It is cultivated. And I cherish it. The rain thins slightly. I can hear individual droplets now, rather than the broad wash from earlier. It feels as though the night itself is slowing. And perhaps you are too. If your thoughts are drifting, if they are no longer following every sentence with precision, that is perfectly all right. Reflection need not be sharp to be meaningful. I find myself thinking about time, not in terms of years or plans, but in the quieter sense of continuity. The way certain evenings resemble one another. The way rain has fallen on this window countless times before, and will again, long after tonight. Love, when it is steady, feels like that. Not urgent, not fleeting, continuous. I do not feel compelled to define it constantly. It defines itself through constancy. When I picture the months ahead, I do not imagine drama. I imagine more evenings such as this. Rooms warmed properly, weather softened by glass, conversation that rises and falls without effort. And even in moments apart, I imagine the same composure. because what we share does not depend on proximity alone. It rests in understanding. The fire has become mostly embers now, a low field of glowing red beneath faint traces of flame. It is enough. There is something profoundly reassuring about enough. Enough warmth, enough time, enough affection. We are not racing toward anything tonight. We are not proving anything. We are simply here. You, wherever you are, and I, here above rain-dark streets, linked by a quiet thread of thought. Reflection has a way of softening even further as sleep approaches. Thoughts become rounder, edges blur. If that is happening to you now, allow it. There is no conclusion required, no lesson to extract. Only this calm awareness that love can be steady without spectacle, that affection can endure without noise. The rain has nearly faded to a whisper. The city hum remains faint beneath it, and the warmth in this room lingers, not intense, but constant. I feel a deep contentment in that constancy, in knowing that even when the flames disappear entirely, the embers will glow a little longer, just as affection does. And as the night grows heavier, as quiet settles more completely, I find my thoughts growing slower, softer, less defined. And that, I think, is precisely how they should be. Soon, we will let them drift even further. The notebook is closed now. It rests beside me, no longer needed. The fire has lowered into a quiet field of embers, glowing softly beneath a faint lace of ash. They no longer leap. They simply breathe. The rain has gentled as well. What was once a steady curtain against the glass is now a softer murmur, like a distant tide turning in its sleep. Everything has found its slower rhythm. And if you are still with me, I imagine you are listening differently now. Not attentive in the way you might have been earlier, not following every sentence with intention, just resting in the sound of it. That is precisely what I hoped for. There is nothing more you must understand tonight. No conclusions to gather, no meaning to extract. The evening has already given what it needed to give. The warmth remains, the quiet remains, and so does the affection. Let your breathing fall into something steady and unremarkable, not forced, not deliberate. Simply allow it to lengthen on its own. Inhale slowly. Exhale even more slowly. There is no urgency left in this room. I find that the final hour before sleep is the most honest hour of the day, when ambition has grown tired, when the mind no longer insists on solving tomorrow. It is in this softened state that one feels most secure. The embers continue their quiet glow. They no longer illuminate the walls clearly. They only tint them faintly with warmth. Shadows have thickened into something gentle. If your thoughts are still flickering, let them flicker. There is no need to extinguish them. They will lower themselves, just as the fire has. Perhaps they are replaying moments from your day. Perhaps they are drifting somewhere further back, to older memories, softer recollections. Let them pass like the rain against the window, uncaught, unquestioned. You do not need to hold on to any of them. The city hum below has thinned as well. Even that tireless energy has quieted. Everything is conspiring toward rest, and you may join it. If your body feels heavier now, that is good. Let the weight settle into the mattress, the cushions, whatever supports you. There is something profoundly comforting about surrendering your weight fully, trusting the surface beneath you. You are supported. Just as this room is supported by its walls, just as the city is supported by its foundations. There is structure beneath you. Nothing is fragile here. If your eyelids are closed, allow them to remain closed. There is nothing you need to see. The embers are dimmer now. Their glow barely touches the edge of the hearth, and yet the warmth persists. That is how steady affection works. It does not require brightness. It does not require spectacle. It simply lingers, quietly, faithfully. If sleep is beginning to blur the edges of these words, let it. You are not required to stay with me. You may drift ahead of the sound of my voice. The rain has become little more than a whisper now, a faint brushing against glass. The embers cool by degrees. Their red deepens, then softens. The room grows darker, and with it, your thoughts may grow darker too. Not troubled, just quieter. There is a point in every evening where language becomes unnecessary, where the body understands what the mind no longer needs to articulate. You are nearing that point now. Your breathing is steady. Your muscles have loosened. Even your thoughts are beginning to space themselves farther apart. Soon, there will be nothing between them at all. Only softness. Only rest. And somewhere, faintly in the background of your awareness, there will remain this calm, unwavering affection. Not loud, not urgent, simply constant. You are cherished, not for what you do, not for how brightly you shine, but for the quiet steadiness of who you are. And as sleep fully claims you, as the night completes its descent, let the last sensation you carry be warmth. Warmth from fading embers. Warmth from distant rain. Warmth from composed, patient love. Drift now. There is nothing left to do. Nothing left to consider. Only the gentle continuation of night and the slow, certain arrival of sleep. Thank you for listening this evening. It's been a pleasure spending this time with you. And if you're still awake, you might enjoy the next letter waiting for you here.